Black wealth matters. This is not a co-op. This is a real op, if you will. Black Lives Matters has its purpose in terms of police brutality being the main focal point of Black Lives Matter. And that's important because the people, the law enforcement, expect them to abide and hold up the law and fair treatment across the board, regardless of whatever differences that there might be in a person, and in this particular case, being black. Now, when I say black wealth matters, I feel that is the most important thing, and it can help solve the Black Lives Matter issue as well. Not the full blown social reform that goes along with Black Lives Matter, but wealth is important. When you blot out wealth because of slavery and are owed 14 to 20 trillion dollars in terms of 40 acres and a mule, that's impactful. That makes a difference. Because median wealth for black folks, and by black folks, and what I'm talking about is Americans that descended from Americans that descended from American chattel slavery, and these Americans being black descendants of chattel slavery. The wealth is approaching zero by 2053, give or take 10 or so years, and more or less give 10 years, as in 2053 or 2063. That's problematic because that leads to ills when you have these poverty-stricken communities, poverty-stricken people that will do worse for less because they got to make that dollar, especially when they're being blocked out of jobs from the dominant society that you have to depend on their kindness to get you a fair shot, a fair deal, and a fair opportunity for advancement. But when you have a reparations package that gives you the autonomy, at least of having that home ownership, which is currently the biggest way for Americans to build wealth. That's how most Americans accrue wealth in their homes, and you can use that money to pass down, take out loans against it, what have you. Our home ownership, in terms of being black people, is at the bottom. We barely own any businesses. And it also is going to go back to the small business loan and the government having to give out grants for our businesses. Because during Jim Crow, businesses got burned down. We was blocked from getting loans. And then we had issues of redlining. And then reverse redlining, which still goes on today. So that has to be fixed government-wise in terms of grants, in addition to reparations for slavery. Because at least reparations for slavery would have made it more equitable when the Homestead Act came about that gave land to white folks. Well, we didn't even benefit from the Homestead Act at all. So that's a problem. And once you have this money and this wealth, at least have this equal median wealth, you can start to have a stable community. If they can't employ you, at least you're able to employ yourself and your people in this case and be competitive. And it can even help in terms of law enforcement, because you say, hey, mayor, if you're going to keep treating my people like this, you know what? I'm taking my business and I'm gone. And another town's going to make this money, or another city going to make this money and get these tax dollars because you blocking us. And the mayor's going to say, all right, let me call police chief and tell him to tone it down on those young black folks, 14 to 22, or these random black folks out there that may look suspicious or may be in a certain area or may be in an area that you don't think they should be at. Now, that helps just in general. Yes, in those certain neighborhoods, but also across the country as well. Because yeah, I understand that politics can be local and with Black Lives Matter and things of that nature, getting certain people out your local office. But what if you traveling? Because you're going to college and you got to go on these interstates and through different states and across the country. You should be able to have that freedom to move without having to worry about getting pulled over because you're black, driving while black, and having an unnecessary encounter with the police. But yeah, it does start locally, but it has to spread nationwide. And when you have this wealth, you can say, hey, hold on. We got these young folks, or black folks in general, traveling across the country in a car. That don't necessarily mean they a criminal or they up to no good. No, just let them fly across the country, like even for college or like a road trip like anybody else, and having a good time, etc. And even to that fact, maybe we need a policy where in the country we don't have tags that outright state what state you're from and where you're coming from. Because cops, if you're gonna get pulled, say, hey, why are you in the state? What you doing here? It's a long way from such and such state. You're a long way from home, which usually happens to black folks in my experiences. They want to know what you're doing around here. So maybe we need a country where we just have one tag, add more numbers to it, and it doesn't necessarily say a state unless it's being scanned because you're being pulled over, and it shows up at that point, not off the bat. Who knows? Who knows what you got to do? But I feel once we address the wealth issue, that gives a person more, in this case, black people, more leverage. They get what you owe, so you can have that autonomy. Because anything else, in terms of a hand me out, which is kind of being with this Black Lives Matter turning into spectacle to some degree, saying, hey, if you post such and such on your timeline and you patron these businesses, hey, you're cool, you're not doing anything wrong. Yeah, that does carry some weight, but that's not the end all be all, because people can cloak themselves in that, saying they did this and this and that. But you need that full autonomy. That wealth that was stolen needs to be put back in terms of reparations and government programs to address a lot of ills, from slavery to Jim Crow to redlining, mass incarceration, reverse redlining, etc. So yeah, I definitely say black wealth matters, and that is the one of, if not the most important thing that should be focused on when in terms of equalizing and making black people equal. Yes, Black Lives Matter is important, but Black Wealth Matters is just as, if not more important, to get your control back, to get your dignity back, to get your power back, get your power restored. So yeah, that's why I say Black Wealth Matters. Reparations, government programs, small businesses, government programs to readdress the damage done from redlining, things of that nature, educational grants, etc. No bounds, but yeah, there could be some limits. But I'm putting it out there. But it definitely starts with that reparations check for slavery, and then you come up with other government programs to address the rest of it. Because even a basic reparation check is not enough, but it's a big starting point, and that'll go a long ways to help address the ills that are affecting black people, especially when you beat someone down monetarily like that. So you can solve some of those issues that arise from that low wealth, low medium wealth kind of state. So yeah, remember, black wealth matters. That's important. Black wealth matters.